onto the spoiler-full part. Let's talk about a few things. In no particular order. So there's a character they mention. I believe it's Locke Lamora's love interest. She's hinted at, she's spoken about, she's traveling somewhere, she's on some mission. Will she come back? They hope so. Is she okay? We don't know. I totally forgot about her until the very end where someone mentioned it. She was like, oh yes, but remember, we still have this person. Okay, I'm not that interested to read the second book to find out where this girl is. Weirdly enough, she gave me similar vibes as the nameless person from The Name of the Wind, that girl who plays with the character's heartstrings. Kind of felt a bit like that, but anyway, so that was just one qualm. The other thing too, so going on to the interludes, very often I felt like Scott Lynch would go, oh, I've got to explain this next part. Let's write a history and shove it in so that the reader understands what's about to happen next. And I thought that was cheap. The moment where Jean is learning how to use his axes and he's training with the guy. Cool scene. I love that. You know, the glass rose garden or the silent rose garden. So bad with names. Whatever. And then it goes into the next bit showing, oh, he's really good with axes. He can throw it and, like, you know, hit some dude in the face. Did you need to do that? Did it have to be there? The only time that worked was towards the end, where at some point in the middle of the book, there's that scene where there's a bully and Locke holds him down and the bully's beating the actual out of his head. And that's a great scene. And he goes, I don't have to fight you. I just have to hold you here until Jean comes along. And that's great. And then it comes on in the end, despite Jean not coming in time. But I love that. So that played in really well. Most of the other times it's like, oh, I'm going to put some thing in to explain the next part. Anyway, another bit that I really liked was when they find out that their home, the Temple of Polonius, Palindrome, Pala. Why are fantasy names so difficult? I'm sure I'm not the only one who reads them, half reads them, and skips it. I do try and make an effort. I try to read them, a few times and learn it, but then, can I remember it? Oh, Jesus. I can't remember. Can't find it either. Can't be bothered. When their home burns, and you think about all the money that they had, and all the things they had, all the costumes, and you find out that the Sansa brothers got murdered. That was tough. I felt sort of sad about the Sansas. They were great characters. There was a small part of me that was like, oh, well, they're just characters. But then when you think about it, like, Locke Lamora built his world around his family. So that was pretty hard. A small thing is I would have liked a map. Just a minor thing. A map would be nice. I love a map. Map of Comore. That would have been great. Maybe the next books there are. I haven't seen, haven't checked. But would have loved that. This is a big point for me, especially towards the end. Now, Locke Lamora, the Thorn of Comore, is super smart. He makes things up on the fly. Sure, I get that. I would have loved the ending, because I know that he was at the mercy of all these bigger forces. You know, the Spider, who knew about his identity, the Grey King, who became the Kappa. All these forces that were sort of using him. I would have loved, just at the very end, some sort of Ocean's 11 thing where actually he did know, and then he one-ups everybody else, and actually maybe he was kind of involved. I would have loved some sort of twist like that, especially it being kind of a heist, kind of a, an assassination kind of story. That would have been really cool. Maybe too complicated. And no disrespect to how it played out. I just would have loved a little bit of, actually, he got everybody. I think the fighting scenes were great. I love those twins, the shark twins. Can't remember their names either. But the fight that Jean has with them was great. Any moment that they were, fighting the sharks, I think they brought this sort of a level of awe to the story, which I really appreciate. And the fact that they were evil at the end, loved that as well. I actually really loved the Don Salvas. I think they were kind of my favorite characters. I loved the the lady whose name I can't remember either. How she was into her botanical stuff and her alchemy, and the husband who was sort of the moneymaker, a little bit more serious. But their whole relationship and the disguise that he becomes Lucas Fayrite, that whole situation I loved. Something I wasn't a huge fan of as well was sometimes there were too many plots that came in. You know, we're moving along, we're learning about how Locke Lamora became a thief, great. You know, he's starting to do these heists or these games against rich people. So, you know, trapping the Don Salvas, great. And then there were too many other things that came in. Caporaza is going a bit crazy, and then there's the Grey King situation, and then the spider got involved, and then it got a little bit muddy. And I was hoping for something maybe not streamlined, but I wanted there to be at least, you know, he has a goal in mind. These other things are happening, but he aims for that. In the end, it just sort of became, yeah, he's a fight for survival. Nothing wrong with that either. But I felt like the gear and the direction kept changing too often. One part that I absolutely hate, it was the moment after his whole place burnt down. They find that surgeon who fixes them up. There was like a whole chapter of him sneaking into the bank, having this elaborate plan, pretending that he's actually an undercover snitch for this bank owner, all to trying to get his clothes or something. And I thought that was the weakest chapter. That could have been resolved in a few pages. And now we're like limping along, watching Locke Lamora try to build himself back up to get a set of clothes. And I thought, maybe I missed something. Maybe there's something that I missed, but that was the weakest part. I think maybe a little bit more information about what these glass structures were, where they came from. I'd like a little more, just a nugget of info. It reminded me a little bit of The Steel Remains by Richard Morgan, where there was sort of an ancient alien race that had been there but wasn't anymore, but they'd left structures and stuff. So interesting parallel. And again, I wasn't interested in that really, and I think a little bit more info about these structures would have been good. Maybe that would have intrigued me to maybe read the next one. But I mean, they were cool anyway. I liked the architecture. I loved how tall and scary these buildings are, how they look through the floor and you can see 500 feet down. Really good. Really small thing. At one point towards the end, he starts describing the dimensions of the rooms and stuff, how high things were in feet. And I just felt like I was in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. You know, the room 30 feet across, 30 feet wide, 50 feet high. I was like, come on, man. I don't want to play Dungeons and Dragons. Tell me a story. Overall, though, you know, my view of this book, I really enjoyed it. It's one that definitely will linger in the back of my mind. The setting, the magic system, the characters. You know, it's a swashbuckling adventure, which is complex. He's given you full-fledged characters, great dialogue, a living, breathing world, a working magic system. There's only a few flaws, and I think it really comes down to his writing ego. Can I say that? Where he's trying to do too much, he's trying to show off a little bit, and it gets, you know, the saturation can bog down the story and what he's trying to achieve. In conclusion, you should try and read it. I think it's, go read it. Thanks for listening. Hopefully it's not a boring, rambling video, which I believe it is. But hey, I haven't done this in a while, so be kind. Whatever you end up doing, wherever you end up going, remember.
Safe travels.